Hi, my name is Kayleen. This is my 5th video on my YouTube channel. Today is March 5th. I'm going to upload a video every other weekend. I'm trying to keep a work-life balance. My channel is all about health and fitness, bullet journaling, art improvement, memory improvement, and caregiving. I took care of my mother with mild dementia, and I took it upon myself when I first started taking care of her to use my health and fitness knowledge to stop her from mild dementia from forgetting me, and it worked. And I'm writing a graphic memoir, so this channel is about promoting my book and also educating people in ways that you can help as a caregiver. But this particular video, I'm going to talk about how to BUJO, bullet journaling for memory and art improvement, energy and caregiving, and to tell your brain what you want, and how to make and save money caregiving. I would want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel, and maybe my channel could be a good caregiver support group so everybody can ask questions and we can all share. I know there are a few websites and Facebook pages, but I think that maybe on my videos you can also share some specific information. So first, I want to encourage you to get yourself a notebook while listening to me so you can make notes, and make your notes more crazy, like pictures and images. You know, if you've read any of Tony Buzan's mind mapping, and I read lots of books on memory and the brain, so I'm going to share all those information that I've learned. But if you just linearly write notes, your brain doesn't remember that way. But if you do crazy images, and there's lots of books on doodling that can help you to just create crazy images, you will remember more. So while you're getting yourself a notebook, I wanted to ask you a little quiz. Do muscles flex? I wanted to talk now about art and a little bit about how I got into it because of taking care of my mother. So my mother moved out with me the end of 2015, and I took care of her for about 4 years. And I brought her with me to all of my phys ed classes and all the health club classes that I taught. And she absolutely loved being out and about, which is always a shame when people are in nursing homes and they don't get a chance to get out. It's really brain stimulation. And I always feel like if you put you in a room and you have a hard time seeing and maybe hearing, and don't take away your phone, how stimulated are you going to be? So leaving my mother in a lockdown unit in a nursing home was not the best thing for her. And I actually had to fight a nursing home in court who illegally held my mother, but I won after 2 months in probate court and got her out, moved her after care to California with me for 4 years, and I brought her everywhere with me, and she loved it. She learned my neighborhood. She learned the colleges. She walked around the campuses while I was teaching. I was at 2 colleges then. I'm only at 1 college now. So she still was able to learn. But everybody that wanted to lock her in this lockdown unit said that she couldn't learn anymore. And she loved being out and about. And one of the things that really hurt her, I believe, is not getting a hearing aid. And the brain books talk about that high-pitched sounds are a battery for your brain. So if you don't get a hearing aid, when you need a hearing aid, you're missing out on all that brain stimulation. Plus, it's going to cause a lot of confusion because your brain's always trying to fill in the blanks. So I have a chapter in my graphic memoir of my mother's misunderstandings and how it was funny at many times, but it also created to some of her confusion. So when I started taking care of my mother, I started getting back into art. And growing up, I was really good at copying, but I can't draw out of my head, which is a challenge for many artists. But I thought as a kid that meant that I wasn't a good artist, so I stopped. And I got back into art, taking care of my mother, because I wanted something to do to take her out and about. So I started going to all the paint nights with my mother, and she really enjoyed going there. And I would always challenge her brain while I was copying the artist, the instructor, and say, okay, what else am I missing? So she would be looking at my picture and what everybody else was copying, which many of the brain books also talk about, that looking at pictures is the most stimulating for your brain as well. So then I started taking her to the paint nights and really enjoyed it. So then I read Ryder Carroll's book on the bullet journaling, and I started getting into that. And I have been a journaler my entire life. I've probably had journals since I was 10. But his book started me thinking about journaling differently as a calendar. And then the bullet journaling community went overboard when it came to his book and made it more art. There's so many good videos out there of bullet journalers and art in their journal. So I started copying and then also changing. So one thing I am confused about with bullet journaling is the mood trackers. So I believe, and I have this in several other videos about your food reaction tracker. So I added a food reaction tracker in one of my other videos I show. It is just a simple little list. Whatever food, you see how that food is affecting you, and that's what really matters. And that's what I did with my mother. I always look for a cause and effect with the food that I gave her. And I realized high fructose corn syrup is when she became delusional and mean. So everybody should stay away from high fructose corn syrup, as well as any kind of dyes and preservatives. When she got that food, which she stole, I never let her get it. She'd find it and she'd steal it and she'd eat it. So that's what made her really mean a lot of times. So always watch for a cause and effect if you are caregiving now. And I don't understand the mood trackers because your mood is dictated by a lot of things. And plus I also have a meditation journal. So you're trying to control your behavior because stress management is always about how you perceive something. So if you perceive something as a challenge that you can learn from, then you are going to learn from it and you won't have any problems physically. But if you look at something and you are so mad about it, your body is going to welcome all that into your body. So I have what I call an energy tracker, and I track what I feel for the day and then also keep notes on why I might feel that way. So if somebody bothers me, and there's always going to be jerks out there, right? You just have to delete them from your brain and just realize that you're never going to see them again anyways, those kind of things. So I keep these energy trackers. So I wanted to show you a few of my energy trackers. I wanted to share with you some of my energy trackers, and I always keep detailed notes on myself. And I think when you write down this information, you'll become more aware and you'll remember it. I remember even in my 20s, I journaled that dairy caused a lot of acne, but then I forgot about that. I stopped drinking any milk or dairy in my 20s. And then in my 30s, I started drinking it again. And then when I was rereading my journals, regular journals, I realized, wait, I already knew in my 20s that dairy and milk caused me a lot of acne on my face. So if you write down all of these notes, especially for the food reaction tracker, and look for a cause and effect, because that was really helpful with my mother, watching for that cause and effect. So here is my first one. So this is fishies. This month, I don't remember which month this was. This was last year, probably 2021. I actually bought myself an Archer and Olive. I bought the craft paper, and Archer and Olive journals, notebooks are really sturdy, and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy this craft paper. So if you really want a good challenge, try the craft paper, because I realized you can't, if you make a mistake, you can't white it out like you can on regular white paper. So I finished this whole book. I used the whole book because I never want to waste my money, but I'm never going to buy craft paper, and I don't think I'm ever going to try the blackout one. That would be even more of a challenge. But I'm just right now I'm in an Archer and Olive white one. So this was for one of my ones. I decided to draw fishes. I had a color code, but then I kind of got bored with the color code because yellow meant I felt average, and green, which was no green fish there, meant that I was super high. And then I put little notes next to the fish to tell me what my feeling was. And I have a separate piece of paper, which I didn't always write it saying why I felt that way. So like I said, you're looking for cause and effect. So if you want nachos, our brain is always fighting. I want nachos, but then on my other part of my brain's like, no, it's going to make you really tired the next day or right afterwards, and you won't be very productive. So that's what I learned when you write it all down. So some of the fishes I spent some time on, and some of them I was lazy, but blue meant that I was below average. So I just pulled up the pictures on the internet. This is the first one. So then I wanted to show you the why. So I would have the color code. See, black meant I was sick on the bottom left there, and very low was brown, below average was orange. And then I would write notes on why I felt that way. So I do know that, even in Matthew Welker, he talks about after you take a hot bath, what happens is that your body sends a whole bunch of blood to your extremities, to your hands and feet, and that's what makes you sleepy. So if you're having trouble falling asleep, try taking a hot bath. And I realized taking a hot shower in the middle of the day made me really, really sleepy. So of course they always say to end your showers with cold, so it opens up your pores, but that's always kind of miserable. So this is just a list of why I was feeling, why my energy was that way, so you can keep track of it and looking back and keep improving. The next one here, I did flowers for February. This is from 2021. I did pick the flowers, but I have I showed you just a minute ago my why for this, and it was fun drawing flowers, but by the end of the month I got tired drawing flowers, but it's a cool page to look back at. The next one I wanted to show you was birds. I decided to do birds, and this is when I wrote next to it what I was doing. So some birds came out okay, and some birds look a little goofy. It was this paper, and this isn't an Archer Olive, this is a different journal, but this paper seems to absorb the ink, and you can't really layer right. So I use this journal. It's a Zen journal. I use this for my regular diary. I don't use it for my bullet journal. It wasn't sturdy enough, but it's still a very good journal for just drawing and just regular writing and a little bit of drawing, but it wasn't sturdy enough for my bullet journal. And the next one I wanted to show you was cars. I decided to do cars, and then on this one day on the 11th, I was a little sick, so I don't always keep up with this and do this every day. And then you can see how sometimes I cheated on the 20th and 21st. I kind of combined one picture, and then I started finding the cars, cartoon cars that fit how my energy was. So like I said, on the 11th, I was sick, so I drew a car that was sick in there, and that's going to help my memory looking back on that to see why I was sick. So sometimes it's food, right? We eat food, and then there is always a cause and effect with food, and I don't understand why people don't see that. And the last one I wanted to show you was butterflies. So I did a whole bunch of butterflies for this month, and I got pretty good at the butterflies. And then I also got bored of butterflies, so butterflies are always a fun thing to draw, right? I wanted to share with you next my meditation images. We all know on so much health literature that meditation is really profoundly helpful, but it's hard to sit down and make yourself do it. So when I write it all down and write my images, then I feel as good as after I felt after I meditated, and encourages me to sit down, which is only 10 to 15 minutes a day. And I don't get to it every single day, but I do sit back on a wall and pull my head back so I can practice what a straight, natural S-curve feels like. Because I think if you just sit up in the middle of a middle without having your back, because I see many people in all of my phys ed classes, they think their body is up nice and straight even when they're standing in mountain pose, but it isn't. So if you don't have some kind of a wall for a reference, then you don't know what straight feels like. So here is my page for my meditation. So I just have this in my bullet journal for one page, and I also the date of the month I have circled, and then I have the number of minutes that I pulled myself back against the wall, which is all part of core training to get it comfortable. So sitting up straight is comfortable and easy, and slumping will feel uncomfortable, which is part of the posture links that I try to share with you guys every single video, which I'll share a video of my next posture link with you guys at the end of this video. So please don't jump ahead. So these are just crazy pictures that I had. Sometimes I'm listening to a meditation track with John Kabat-Zinn or some other people that I just listen to what their suggestions are. And then so like the middle one there on the 14th, that was a meditation track about seeing the doors. So I drew that, and they're all just goofy pictures, and they don't have to be real. So that's kind of the fun of just figuring out. It's like how do I portray sound? I can hear the sound and see the sound, but I don't know how to portray sound. And I saw waves one day, mountains being on the top of the mountain tops on the 19th. So just good little cute little images that take maybe 3 to 5 minutes, if that. And my rule was no reference to challenge myself. And I don't know whether this was before my butterfly energy tracker or after my energy trackers to knew how to draw butterflies. I also wanted to mention some ways that you could actually make some money taking care of your relative versus putting them into a nursing home. I realized in my state of California, Medi-Cal has in-home supportive services as part of Medi-Cal, and I applied for that, and I was able to get paid for taking care of my mother. But I also believe that if you're taking care of your parents and they move in with you, then you should get their pension as well as the Social Security that pays for them. So if you have a big family, if you guys all divvy it all up and split it up taking care of them, then you can all take a piece of that. So why give that money to a nursing home, which is not going to give them one-on-one care? And whenever people move into a nursing home, they deteriorate profoundly within the first 6 months because they just kind of give up on life. So I was really glad that my profession, I was allowed to take care of my mother. I brought her everywhere with me. So I also wanted to go over what I consider how to be mindful with your bullet journal, your journal, which is what I did with my mother. So after every night, I always write in there what I did. And I wrote that in my previous video. I showed a copy of what at the end of every day I'll put in there. And it's really helpful when you want to double check your credit card charges. So that's what I did with my mother. I kind of did it. I got the idea from the movie with Adam Sandler when Drew Barrymore, 50 First Dates, when he decided to help her, and every single morning he would show her a video to catch her up. And I did that with my mother. I would have her write, and at the end of the day, she didn't remember what happened during the day, but I would challenge people, and I also have this in my book. How many days can you go back and remember what you did without looking at a calendar? So I would have her write it out what we did, and if we did something, I would have her write it out. And then we can look back at it, and she could look back at it. And plus, I like seeing her handwriting. My mother always had fantastic handwriting. So the last thing I wanted to share with you, I asked you in the beginning, do muscles flex? And muscles don't flex. Muscles shorten or lengthen, but joints flex. So which is part of my posture link. I wanted to make sure everybody realizes when you close the angle of a joint, you are flexing. So right now, you're flexing my spine, but you want to always keep your spine extended. And of course, you have to keep your tummy in tight so you don't hyperextend your low back. And I have seen some articles where they'll say, if you're standing up straight, you're actually arching. So if you don't pay attention, yes. If you sit up nice and straight and you stick your tummy out like that, then you'd be hyperextending your low back. So you still have to flex your low back, and you want to try to extend or try to hyperextend your upper back to keep your posture good. So your posture link for this video is to keep your head back. So one major problem with the elderly is they're always looking down at the ground because they're terrified of falling. But what happens is that when you are looking down all the time, when you do get something that disturbs your equilibrium, you're going to fall down faster. So it's more important for the elderly to keep their head back, but it's also really important for your posture and to strengthen all of those, your rhomboids and everything else. So if your head's forward like that, you are going to change your skeletal structure and change it into dowager's hump. So if your muscular system changed your skeletal system, pulling you forward into dowager's hump, or kyphosis it's called, there's no reason why you can't start making a conscious effort and pull your head back. And then your posture will follow your head. So I actually have this triangle pillow that I put on my lap when I'm reading, so my head's up like this. So from now on, keep your head back. If you're looking at your cell phone, pull it up like this. Who cares if someone thinks you're taking their picture? If someone looks at you funny, then just face a different direction. I've had my students, they'll go, well, then people are going to think that I'm taking their picture. Well, just change your direction so they don't think that. So don't look for obstacles, look for solutions, right? So I wanted to thank you for listening to this video. As I mentioned in other videos, I'm not going to make my videos all fancy and words coming in and everything else and farting noises and all these crazy images, because I wanted to make my videos nice and calm and relaxed So you can just sit back and listen. Sometimes when all these videos have all these images coming in, it's really distracting. And of course, people think that you can multitask, but you absolutely can't. Because I've had many students want to sit on a recumbent bicycle while they're reading and listening to music, and they're on the recumbent bicycle. So your brain can't do that. It's always stopping, starting, stopping, starting. So try to have one thing going on at once. So maybe if you're on a cardio equipment, you could be looking at a video, something like that. But doing all three, you're not getting a good job done at all three of them. So again, I wanted to thank you for listening. I hope you've learned a lot. I want to encourage you to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And I would love to hear some questions from anybody about anything I've said. Thanks for staying.